She said, I feel so undervalued. He said it's nothing I've done wrong. God, is what I'm feeling just anxiety that comes from my past, or is it... There's a moment after a breakup where the silence gets louder than anything else. You wake up and for a split second, you forget they're gone. But then it hits you. The absence, the stillness where there used to be messages, calls, plans, laughter. You scroll through your phone instinctively, your heart doing this hopeful little dance like maybe, just maybe, there's something waiting, and there it is, nothing. That's when the real work begins. Moving on isn't about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about not letting the pain define the rest of your story. Letting go starts with honesty, not the filtered version of the relationship where you romanticize every sweet memory, but the truth, the full truth. The good, the bad, and the deeply disappointing. Because to move forward, you first have to stop rewriting the past into a fantasy that keeps you stuck in place. Breakups create a sort of emotional illusion. You don't just lose a person, you lose a future you imagined with them. That's what makes it so damn hard. You're not just grieving who they were, you're grieving who you got to be when you were with them. And that version of yourself, the happy, secure, wanted version, feels so far away now. But here's the truth. The love that's worth holding on to won't require you to lose yourself. If moving on feels like you're abandoning something beautiful, remind yourself of this. Something truly beautiful won't require you to fight for scraps of it. And if you have to beg for love to stay, it was already halfway out the door. Grieving is natural. Wishing they'd come back is normal. But allowing those wishes to anchor your future, that's where your healing stops. We often ask ourselves, why can't I let them go? But the better question is, what am I afraid will happen if I do? Because sometimes holding on gives us the illusion of control. As long as we hold on, there's a chance they might change their mind. As long as we hold on, we don't have to face the terrifying idea that maybe we weren't enough. But you were never meant to convince someone of your worth. The right person sees it, feels it, and never makes you doubt it. Letting go doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're choosing your own peace over chasing someone who already chose something else. And peace is always a worthy choice. Sometimes we replay the relationship in our minds, looking for clues, searching for where we went wrong, what we could have done differently. And while self-reflection is healthy, it can easily become self-torture. You can learn the lesson without rewriting the story to make it all your fault. Relationships end for many reasons, not just because one person failed. Sometimes the connection fades. Sometimes the timing is wrong. Sometimes they weren't ready. And sometimes you weren't meant to be the one to wait. Growth comes when you stop asking how to make them stay and start asking what made you stay when your needs weren't being met. That's where your power lies, in the willingness to choose you. You don't have to hate someone to move on from them. That's a lie we tell ourselves to justify letting go. If I can just get angry enough, I'll stop loving them. But the truth is, you can still love someone and walk away. You can still miss someone and know they weren't right for you. Emotional maturity means making peace with duality. Yes, you shared real moments. Yes, they mattered. And yes, it still needs to end. Letting go is not about deleting feelings. It's about releasing your attachment to what could have been. It's about closing the door, not because you didn't love them, but because you've decided to love yourself more. We confuse closure with answers. We think if we just knew why they left, why they changed, why they didn't fight for us, we'd feel better. But closure doesn't come from their explanation. It comes from your decision. The day you stop waiting for validation is the day you start reclaiming your peace. They may never give you the apology, the reasoning, the kindness you deserve, but you don't need them to. Forgiveness is something you do for yourself, not to let them off the hook, but to release the emotional weight you've been carrying. You're not forgiving because they earned it. You're not forgiving. You're forgiving so you don't have to carry their choices on your back anymore. Sometimes the hardest part of letting go is realizing they're not the person you built them up to be. And that's painful because you weren't just in love with who they were, you were in love with who you hoped they could become. But falling in love with potential is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. You can't keep holding on to someone just because you believe in what they might be. That's not love. That's attachment dressed up as faith. You deserve someone who's showing up today, not someone you have to wait to grow into the person you need. Love doesn't ask you to be patient with disrespect. It asks you to be brave enough to leave when you know you're not being honored. There's a version of you that existed before them. Remember that person? The one who had dreams, passions, favorite songs that didn't remind you of anyone. That version of you is not gone. They're waiting. And maybe you've spent so long in this relationship that you forgot who you were without it. But that's the beauty of a breakup. It invites you to rediscover yourself, to become the person you abandoned while trying to be enough for someone else. Moving on means taking that invitation seriously. It means building a life that's so full, so rich, that you no longer look back with longing but with clarity and gratitude that you had the courage to walk away. Letting go doesn't mean it stops hurting overnight. There will be days when the H returns out of nowhere. A smell, a place, a memory. Suddenly you're right back in it. But healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel strong. Other days you'll fall apart. That's okay. What matters is that you keep choosing forward. That you don't make a home in the pain just because it's familiar. Growth is uncomfortable. It stretches you. It asks you to sit with emotions you'd rather avoid. But if you can resist the urge to numb or run, you'll find something extraordinary resilience. The kind that doesn't just help you move on, it transforms you. One of the biggest lies we believe after a breakup is that we lost something irreplaceable. But the truth is, you didn't lose the person, you lost your person for that chapter of your life. They served a role, they taught you something, and now the chapter has ended. That doesn't mean the book is over, it means there's more to come, more love, more joy. More depth, but you won't get to that part if you keep rereading the old pages hoping the ending will change. It won't, and that's a good thing, because life has a way of rewriting itself into something far more beautiful than what you thought you wanted. When you're trying to move on, one of the most powerful things you can do is shift your focus from why it ended to what it revealed. Every breakup reveals something, not just about the other person, but about you. About what you tolerated, what you needed more of, what you were afraid to ask for, and what you're finally ready to stop settling for. The pain isn't just a punishment, it's a message. It's your soul tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, we deserve better than this. But you won't hear that message clearly if you keep using your time and energy trying to decode someone else's choices instead of understanding your own value. Moving on doesn't happen in one grand gesture. It happens in the little decisions you make every single day. When you choose not to check their profile. When you stop replaying the same memory over and over. When you finally delete the messages you swore you'd keep, just in case. Healing is in the discipline. And every time you choose yourself, even when it hurts, you build that muscle of self-respect. You remind yourself that your heart deserves more than the comfort of the past. It deserves the freedom of the future. And freedom doesn't come from wishing things had been different. It comes from deciding that this moment is where you start over. One of the most deceptive traps after a breakup is nostalgia. Nostalgia has a way of erasing all the discomfort, the emotional distance, the unmet needs, and replacing it with a highlight reel of cuddles, inside jokes, and late night talks. But nostalgia is not truth, it's memory with all the sharp edges softened. It's a story edited to make you crave what was without remembering why it had to end. Every time you get pulled into that sentimental loop, stop and ask, what's the full picture here? Not just the warmth, but the moments that left you feeling small, unseen, or second place. Because true clarity doesn't come from rose-colored glasses. It comes from the courage to see things as they were. Your brain will want closure. Your heart will want one last conversation. That message, that meeting, that apology. But more often than not, chasing that final moment won't give you peace. It'll give you confusion. Because people who couldn't show up for you before rarely start showing up just because you're finally walking away. And even if they do say something kind, something that gives you temporary relief, it won't last unless it's backed by consistent change. That's the difference between a goodbye that heals and one that reopens the wound. Closure isn't a dialogue, it's a decision. It's you saying to yourself, I deserve better than waiting for someone else to give me permission to move on. There will be moments where your mind tries to convince you that letting go means losing the connection forever. That if you stop thinking about them, stop grieving, stop longing, it somehow dishonors the love you shared. But love doesn't need to be eternal to be meaningful. Some loves come to teach, not to stay. And the gift they leave you with isn't their presence. It's the way you learn to see yourself more clearly in their absence. Letting go is not a betrayal. It's an evolution. It's choosing to honor the chapter while also turning the page. And yes, it's scary to face the blank space of what comes next, but blank pages are where your greatest storylines begin. One of the most beautiful things about healing is the way it forces you to meet yourself. Breakups strip away distractions. The future you imagined vanishes. The shared plans dissolve. And in that empty space, you're left with you. Your insecurities, your patterns, your silence, but also your strength, your voice, your intuition. For the first time in a long time, you have no one to filter your choices through. You get to ask, what do I want? What makes me happy? Without anyone else in the picture. That's not loneliness, that's liberation. And the more you lean into it, the more you'll realize that the relationship you build with yourself after heartbreak is the one that changes everything. We often think of healing as this uphill battle, but sometimes healing is simply about stopping the cycle of self-betrayal. It's no longer choosing someone who won't choose you back. No longer pretending things are okay when they're not. No longer making excuses for behavior that made you question your worth. Moving on is reclaiming your boundaries. It's drawing a line between what you allowed and what you'll never tolerate again. It's not about becoming bitter, it's about becoming wise. Because now you know better. And knowing better means doing better, not just with others, but with yourself. That's what healing looks like in action. People will tell you to just move on, but they won't tell you how, because they don't understand that heartbreak isn't a switch you flip. It's a process you survive. It's waking up with a heavy chest and showing up anyway. It's crying in the car on the way to work and still getting the job done. It's laughing with friends and then going home to silence that feels like a scream. Moving on is messy, it's non-linear, it's exhausting. But here's the beautiful part. You're doing it every single day you breathe. Grow, show up. You're doing it. Don't measure your progress by how little you think of them. Measure it by how much you're learning to choose yourself again. Sometimes the hardest part of letting go is the fear that you won't find something better, that this was your best shot, your only real connection, that no one else will ever get you the same way. But that fear is a lie built by scarcity. There are over 8 billion people in the world. Think about that. You haven't even met most of the people who are going to love you, laugh with you, challenge you, grow with you. Don't limit your future based on one chapter. Don't put your entire belief in love into the hands of someone who couldn't hold it. The best love stories are the ones still waiting to be written, but only if you're brave enough to let go of the old one. You don't heal by replacing, you heal by reflecting. Jumping into a new relationship just to get over the old one is like using duct tape to fix a broken dam. Temporary relief, but the damage still leaks through. Sit with the silence, not forever, but long enough to learn from it. Ask yourself, what patterns do I never want to repeat? What red flags did I ignore? What did this relationship teach me about my needs, my boundaries, my blind spots? That's how you turn pain into power. Not by running from it, but by listening to it. You don't have to stay in the hurt to honor the lesson. You just have to respect what it came to teach you. People ask, how long will it take to get over them? But healing has no stopwatch. There is no timer that tells you when the pain expires. The more important question is, what am I doing with the time I have now? Because healing isn't passive. It doesn't just happen while you sit and wait. It happens when you choose to show up for yourself, even in the smallest ways. When you go for a walk instead of scrolling through old pictures. When you call a friend instead of stalking their new relationship. When you feed your body, rest your mind, and nourish your soul. Healing is built in the mundane. And one day, without realizing it, you'll wake up and notice something's changed. Their name doesn't sting anymore. That's when you know you're getting there. There's a strange loyalty we feel toward people who hurt us, as if admitting they weren't right for us means the love wasn't real. But real love doesn't always mean lasting love. Some people come into our lives to awaken us, not to walk beside us forever. Their role was important, but it was also temporary. Holding on to them because you shared something meaningful is like refusing to leave a house that's burning because it once kept you warm. Love is not the same as compatibility. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to release someone, not out of bitterness, but because you finally love yourself enough to walk away from what no longer fits. We often tie our worth to how long someone stayed. or how well they loved us. But people's inability to love you properly says nothing about your value. You could have given your best, your heart, your soul, and still they couldn't meet you where you were. That's not your failure. That's your freedom. Because now you know what you need. Now you know what you'll never again settle for. Don't make your healing a reflection of what they see in you. Make it a celebration of what you're finally seeing in yourself. This journey isn't about proving anything to them. It's about proving to yourself that you're worthy of more than confusion and almosts. Comparison will steal your progress if you let it. Watching them move on, find someone new, or appear happy can feel like a punch to the gut. But here's the truth. They're not your mirror. Their life doesn't reflect your healing. You're on your own timeline. You're building something more permanent, more honest, and that takes time. Don't measure your worth by someone else's speed. Just because they moved on faster doesn't mean they healed deeper. Just because they look happy doesn't mean they found peace. Your focus is your superpower. Don't waste it watching someone who already showed you they couldn't choose you. Focus on what you get to choose now, yourself. You might miss the way they held you, the comfort of being wanted, the safety of familiarity, and that's okay. Missing someone doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It means you're human. But comfort is not the same as love. Familiarity isn't the same as fulfillment. Just because something felt good for a while doesn't mean it's right for you long term. Sometimes we confuse "I miss you" with "I miss being seen." But the truth is, real love won't make you beg to be noticed. It won't come in waves of uncertainty. Let that be your standard. Because the kind of love you deserve won't make you question your place in someone's heart. You can love them and still know they're not your person. That duality is real. We think we need to hate them to move on. But sometimes the most freeing thing you can say is, "I love them, and I'm letting them go." Because love is not a chain. It's not possession. If it keeps you stuck, it's no longer love, it's attachment. And attachments can be painful, even toxic, when they're rooted in fear. Fear of starting over, fear of being alone. But starting over is not failure. It's a gift, it's a blank slate. It's your opportunity to write a story where you're not constantly questioning if you're enough. Because you are. And your new beginning will prove that. Sometimes the pain isn't just about losing them, it's about losing who you were with them. The version of you that laughed louder, loved harder, hoped more. And yes, that version is worth mourning. But here's the thing, those parts of you didn't disappear. They just need a new home, a new environment, a new space to come alive again. You don't need a person to activate your light. You need alignment. You need peace. You need a space where all those beautiful parts of you feel safe enough to show up again. Don't look for someone to bring that version of you back. Become the person who protects that version of you now. There's a quiet kind of strength that comes when you stop trying to be okay for everyone else. When you stop pretending the breakup didn't crush you. When you allow yourself to grieve, not just in private, but in full truth. Healing doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. Show up in the mess. Let your heart be messy. Let your tears fall. Let your voice crack when you talk about it. There's no shame in feeling deeply. The pain you feel is a reflection of how much you cared. And the capacity to care like that is not a weakness, it's your power. Don't shut it down. Don't numb it. Let it shape you. Let it remind you how big your heart really is. You will not feel like this forever. I promise you, no matter how heavy the ache is right now, no matter how many nights feel endless, the pain will soften. Slowly, quietly, almost unnoticeably at first, and one day the memory will come and it won't take your breath away. It'll simply exist, like a photograph from a past life, something you once lived, but no longer belong to. That day is coming. But for now, your only job is to keep going. Even if all you do today is breathe, that's enough. Even if all you do is get through this moment, that's enough. Because every step, no matter how small, is still forward. Don't rush the process. Don't skip the steps just because you're tired of feeling broken. You're not broken, you're rebuilding. And rebuilding takes time, foundation, patience. You're learning to trust again, to believe again, to feel safe in your own skin again. That doesn't happen overnight. So let yourself be a work in progress. Let your healing be imperfect. There's no timeline you have to meet, no finish line you're racing toward. Just one moment after the next, choosing again and again to believe in the possibility of love. Not with them, with someone who sees you, honors you, and stays. Healing after heartbreak often feels like walking through fog. You don't know exactly where you're going, and nothing looks familiar anymore. The world feels different without them in it. You question every step, wondering if you're going in the right direction. But the beautiful thing about fog is that it never lasts. The sun always comes. Slowly it burns away the confusion, the doubt, the longing. And when it does, you realize something powerful. You didn't need to see the whole path to keep walking. All you needed was the courage to take the next step, and then the next. Moving on isn't about having the answers. It's about having the bravery to keep showing up for yourself, even when everything still hurts. There will be moments when you slip backward, when the loneliness gets loud and the memories get heavy, when your progress feels like it's been undone in a single afternoon. That doesn't mean you've failed. That means you're human. Healing isn't a straight line, it's a series of spirals. Sometimes you revisit the same feeling just to learn something new from it. Maybe this time, when you miss them, you realize you're not missing them, but the comfort of being chosen. Maybe this time, the tears feel different. Not desperate, but cleansing. You're not back at square one, you're at a deeper layer, that's growth. And even when it hurts, it's taking you somewhere better. We often hold on to the hope that they'll come back, that one day they'll realize what they lost and return with an apology, with change, with a new heart. But hope like that can become a prison. You don't need someone to come back and choose you to feel whole again. You don't need their recognition to feel validated. And if they left once without fighting for you, the truth is they were never prepared to love you the way you needed. Real love doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't disappear when things get tough. The love that returns isn't always the love that's right. Don't wait for them to come back. Wait for the day you stop wanting them to. You may feel angry at them, at yourself, at the situation. That's okay. Anger is a valid part of grieving. But don't let it harden you. Don't let it turn you into someone guarded and afraid to feel again. Let it move through you, not into you. Use it as fuel, not as armor. Let it teach you where your boundaries were ignored, where your needs were silenced, where your love was taken for granted. Then channel that fire into building a life that feels like freedom, not one built in response to them, but one that reflects your values, your truth, your worth. Let the anger pass through so that forgiveness can come, not for their sake, but for your peace. Sometimes you'll feel disconnected from yourself, like the breakup didn't just take them. It took your joy, your motivation, your identity. And that can be terrifying. But this is the part where you begin again, not as a lesser version of yourself, but as someone rising from the ashes with new wisdom. Reconnect with the things that made you feel alive before them. The music, the movement, the creativity, the friendships. Reclaim your space. Rearrange your room, change your routine, get back into your body. You are not defined by the absence of someone else. You are defined by how you come back home to yourself. There will be people who tell you to stay strong, as if strength means not crying, not missing, not feeling. But real strength isn't cold or distant. Real strength is soft. It's choosing to feel even when it hurts. It's choosing to hope even when you're scared. It's choosing to love again even after your heart's been bruised. Don't wear your strength like armor. Wear it like a second skin. Something that protects without hiding, that shields without disconnecting. You don't have to pretend you're okay if you're not. You just have to keep going. And the more honest you are with your heart, the stronger you'll become. The loneliness after a breakup isn't just about being physically alone. It's about the emotional void, the lack of daily check-ins, the absence of someone who made you feel like your life was a shared story. That silence can feel deafening, but instead of filling it with distractions, try to sit with it. In that silence is the voice you may have ignored for far too long, your own. The one that tells you what you truly want, what you've outgrown, what you're no longer willing to accept. Loneliness can be painful, yes, but it can also be a portal, a doorway into deeper self-connection. If you're willing to walk through it, you may just discover the most beautiful relationship of your life, the one you build with yourself. You may not trust your heart right now. It led you somewhere that ended in pain, and now every feeling comes with fear. That's normal. But don't confuse pain with failure. Your heart isn't broken, it's bruised, and bruises heal. What matters now is how you treat it. Don't punish yourself for loving deeply. Don't make your heart wrong for choosing someone who couldn't stay. Instead, thank it for its capacity, for its courage, for its openness, and then remind it we're going to be more careful now, not because we're scared, but because we know better. Let that be your guide. Caution, not fear. Wisdom, not walls. Eventually, you'll stop asking, what was wrong with me? And start asking, why did I make them the measure of my enoughness? That's when the shift happens. When you stop putting your worth in someone else's hands. When you realize you never needed their love to validate yours. That their departure wasn't a verdict on your value, but a reflection of their capacity. You were always enough. You just gave too much to someone who couldn't hold it. But now you're reclaiming it, your energy, your love, your power. And when the day comes that you finally feel whole again, it won't be because someone returned. It'll be because you did. You don't need a big breakthrough to move on. Sometimes it's just a quiet moment of truth, like when you catch yourself smiling again, when you realize you haven't thought about them in days, when you walk past the place you used to go together and your heart stays calm. Healing isn't always loud. It's often subtle, soft, silent, but it's there, in the peace that replaces panic, in the stillness that replaces longing, in the clarity that replaces confusion. That's what moving on really looks like. Not forgetting them, but remembering yourself. Not pretending it never mattered, but finally realizing that you matter more. You may wonder when the moment will come that you finally feel over it. The truth is, there may not be a single moment. Healing often doesn't show up like a celebration. It arrives quietly in small victories. It's when their name comes up and your chest doesn't tighten. When you find their picture and feel compassion instead of heartbreak. When you realize you don't want to go back, not because you're bitter, but because you've grown too much to fit into that version of life again. That's the miracle of moving on. It happens while you're busy living, while you're investing in yourself, learning new things, meeting new people, becoming someone stronger. Suddenly, you're not waiting for closure anymore. You are the closure. Every time you feel tempted to reach out, to check on them, to revisit what once was, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I miss them, or because I miss who I was when I felt loved? There's a difference. The desire to reconnect is often the desire to feel something familiar. But familiarity is not always safe. It can be seductive but also dangerous. You don't need to reopen wounds just because they etch. You don't need to revisit the past just because it's easier than facing the uncertainty of the future. Moving on is about creating a future where your peace isn't interrupted by someone else's absence. It's about letting the past rest, even when it calls your name. It's okay to admit that part of you still loves them. Letting go doesn't require you to erase every feeling. It just asks that you stop letting those feelings make your decisions. Love can live in memory without dictating your present. You can honor what you felt without needing to revive it. You can carry the lesson without carrying the person. The human heart is capable of holding so many things: joy and sorrow, love and grief, gratitude and disappointment. Let your heart be that big. Let it feel fully. But don't let it convince you to return to a place where you had to shrink yourself to feel wanted. Don't romanticize the struggle. Sometimes we confuse pain with depth, as if the more we hurt, the more meaningful the relationship was. But pain is not proof of love. Love should not be measured by how hard it is to let go. Sometimes we hold on not because they were extraordinary, but because we were lonely, hopeful, or afraid. And that's okay. There's no shame in needing connection, but healing comes when you stop assigning someone more value than they actually brought. When you stop believing that love must come with suffering. Real love doesn't drain you. It doesn't confuse you. It doesn't leave you questioning your worth. You deserve the kind of love that feels like freedom, not fear. Love that feels like clarity, not confusion. Love that holds you, not with tight fists of control, but with open hands of trust. And if that's not what you had, then you're not losing love. You're losing attachment. Real love isn't something you chase or beg for. It meets you where you are and walks with you. So if someone walked away, let them. Don't chase what chose to leave. Make space for what's coming. And believe that what's coming is better. Not because you need it to be perfect, but because you've done the work to make sure it reflects your worth. It's not your job to make someone ready. You can't force growth. You can't beg someone to see you acting. You can't love someone into becoming the partner you need. That's not love, that's emotional labor, and it's exhausting. When you find yourself working overtime to prove your worth, stop. You don't need to audition for love. The right person will see you, understand you, and choose you without all the convincing. Let go of the fantasy that your love can fix someone who hasn't chosen to fix themselves. That's not your role. Your only job is to love yourself enough to walk away when someone else refuses to meet you halfway. You are not too much. You are never too emotional, too sensitive, too loving, too deep. You just gave your heart to someone who wasn't prepared to hold it. That doesn't make you wrong. It makes you brave. It means you showed up in a world that teaches people to guard themselves. You chose openness when it would have been easier to shut down. That's courage. So instead of dimming your light, own it, protect it, honor it. The right person will never make you feel like your love is too big. They'll feel lucky to receive it. And until then, you keep giving that love to the one person who truly deserves it right now. You. Stop waiting for them to regret losing you. Stop hoping that one day they'll realize what they had, because your healing is not about their awakening. It's about your release. You don't need their regret to validate your worth. You don't need their return to feel whole again. People come into your life for a season, a reason, or a lesson, and some were never meant to stay. Their exit wasn't a rejection of your value. It was a redirection towards something better. Don't waste your life trying to prove your significance to someone who couldn't see it. Instead, become undeniable to yourself. Fall in love with your own strength. That's the power of moving on. You will date again. You will laugh again. You will laugh again. But it will be different this time, not because they'll be perfect, but because you will be wiser. You'll know your boundaries. You'll recognize the red flags. You'll stop trying to be chosen and start choosing. That's the gift of heartbreak. It awakens you. It sharpens your instincts. It raises your standards. And when love comes again, and it will, you'll walk into it with eyes open, heart steady, and a soul that knows what it deserves. That's not just moving on. That's rising. That's becoming the version of you who no longer settles for less than she gives. At some point, you'll look back and realize that the person you thought you couldn't live without was never the one holding your life together. You were. You were the one who got through the sleepless nights. You were the one who held yourself when no one else showed up. You were the one who kept choosing to breathe, to heal, to keep going. Give yourself that credit. Honor the strength it took to walk away, to stay away, to begin again. Because the version of you who's emerging now, the one who's been through fire and still believes in love, that version is unstoppable. That version is the reward. It's okay if you still feel the pain even after all this time. Healing doesn't come with an expiration date. There's no set timeline that says, you should be over it by now. Ignore that voice, ignore the pressure. Some wounds take longer because they cut deeper. And that's not a reflection of weakness. It's a reflection of how much you cared. You're not failing because it still hurts. You're healing, slowly, intentionally. Every tear is a release. Every sigh is progress. Every day you don't go back, even if you want to, that's strength. Healing is happening even when it's invisible, even when no one claps for it, even when only you know how hard it really is. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is going from I miss them to I miss me. The real you, the one who felt confident, light, and whole before this heartbreak cracked you open. That's who you're grieving, and that's also who you're returning to. But this time wiser, this time stronger. Breakups don't just take someone from you, they take you from you. And now, the journey isn't just about letting go of them. It's about reconnecting with yourself, relearning your worth, remembering what you bring to the table, the way you love, the way you care, the way you show up. That's not gone. It's just waiting to be reclaimed. There's something sacred about rebuilding, about starting over with shaky hands but a clearer heart. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's hard. But it's also powerful, because now you get to decide what stays and what goes, which beliefs about love you're ready to retire, which habits you refuse to carry forward, which parts of yourself are finally ready to lead. Rebuilding isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before fear and disappointment told you to shrink. Before you questioned your worth, before you started settling, this is your comeback. And it won't be loud. It'll be intentional, graceful, and rooted in truth. You don't owe your past self an explanation. You don't have to justify why you stayed, why you tried, or why you believed in someone who couldn't meet you there. That version of you didn't know what you know now. And that's okay. There's no shame in giving love. The mistake isn't in caring, The mistake is in believing you weren't worthy of more. But that's not your story anymore. You're not here to judge who you were. You're here to protect who you're becoming. And that means giving yourself compassion for every decision, every heartbreak, every moment you just didn't know better. That's not weakness. That's self-respect. You might still feel like something's missing, like there's a space no one else can fill. That's not a void. It's a reminder. A reminder that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to live with the space and letting it become something beautiful. That space will one day hold new memories, new connections, new joy. But for now, let it be what it is. Don't rush to fill it just because you're uncomfortable. Let yourself get comfortable with the quiet, with the unknown, with the idea that you don't need to replace someone to feel whole again. You just need to rediscover that your wholeness was never dependent on them in the first place. People say time heals all wounds, but that's only half true. It's not just time, it's what you do with that time. You can spend it waiting, wishing, or replaying. Or you can spend it growing, learning, and loving yourself back to life. Healing is active. It requires participation. It means choosing to show up for yourself every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, it means making choices that support your peace. Saying no to what pulls you back. Saying yes to what moves you forward. It's not magic, it's effort. But every bit of effort you give to yourself comes back multiplied, not instantly, but inevitably. You were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. The right person will meet you with open arms, not conditions. They won't make you feel like your needs are burdens. They won't shame you for wanting consistency, communication, or clarity. The right person will feel like peace, not anxiety, like trust, not tension. If you had to constantly wonder where you stood, that wasn't love. It was emotional uncertainty dressed as intensity. Don't chase fireworks. Chase safety. Chase steadiness. Chase someone who makes you feel calm in their presence, not chaotic. That's the love you're learning to choose now. It's time to forgive yourself for the calls you made, for the messages you sent, for the moments you begged, pleaded, or stayed too long. You were doing your best with what you knew. You were trying to save something you thought was worth saving. That doesn't make you desperate, it makes you human. And now you know better. Now you know when to walk, when to hold the line, when to say, I deserve more than this. Forgiveness is not about forgetting, it's about releasing. You don't have to carry the shame. You don't have to wear the guilt. Let it go. You've punished yourself enough. Now it's time to heal. You're going to surprise yourself. One day, you'll laugh in a way that feels real again. You'll meet someone who reminds you that love can be easy. You'll feel light in your chest where the ache used to live. You'll wake up and realize you're not waiting for anything anymore. That you're no longer searching for closure, validation, or signs. That you're just living. And in that moment, you'll understand that letting go wasn't about losing anything. It was about gaining you. The you who trusts her own voice, who stands tall in her own value, who chooses herself even when it's hard. That you is on her way. Don't give up on her. Let this season be your turning point. Let it be the moment you stopped chasing love and started becoming it. Let it be the chapter where your heartbreak became your rebirth, where you stopped looking for someone to complete you and started building a life so full, so rich, so meaningful that love would be lucky to enter it. This isn't the end of your story. This is the beginning of the part where you rise, not as someone who got left behind, but as someone who finally saw her own light. And once you see that light, really see it, you'll never settle for dimness again. Your future isn't waiting for your heartbreak to disappear. It's waiting for you to show up in spite of it. You don't have to be fully healed to begin again. You just have to be willing. Willing to say yes to life again. Willing to be open. Willing to trust even with trembling hands. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be present. To bring your heart, even if it's still healing. To bring your voice, even if it still shakes. You don't need to have it all together to start living again. You just need to believe that what's ahead is worth moving toward. And it is. It absolutely is. You've already survived the hardest part, the loss, the letting go, the long nights of questioning and doubt. And if you're still here, it means there's more for you. More beauty, more joy, more connection. But only if you're willing to leave behind the version of yourself that thought you couldn't go on without them. That version served a purpose, But now it's time to evolve. It's time to become the version of you that thrives without needing someone else to complete the picture. You are no longer defined by what broke you. You're defined by what you built in its aftermath, and what you're building now is something unshakable. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not failing at healing. Everything you're feeling right now is valid. Everything you're experiencing is part of the journey. Some days will feel like steps forward, others like sinking back into sadness. That's normal. Healing doesn't follow a schedule. It follows intention. The fact that you're still showing up for yourself, still asking questions, still seeking answers, that alone is evidence of your strength. So breathe, soften, and stop measuring your worth by how fast you can forget. Measure it by how bravely you continue to feel. That is where your power lies. There will come a day when someone meets you and they won't see your brokenness. They'll see your brilliance. They'll see your depth, your tenderness, your courage. They won't run from your past, they'll respect it. They won't make you work for love, they'll give it freely, clearly, fully. But that person can only meet you at the level you've met yourself. So don't wait for them to show up to begin your healing. Do the work now. Do it for you. The more you love yourself, the more you raise your standard. And the more you raise your standard, the more you'll attract someone who won't just meet you halfway, they'll meet you fully. Letting go is not the end of love. It's the beginning of truth. The truth that your worth was never tied to someone's ability to love you correctly. The truth that you can miss someone and still not want them back. The truth that endings are often beginnings in disguise. That this heartbreak, as painful as it is, might just be the thing that opens you up to everything you've been asking for. Growth, depth, alignment, peace. That's what you're walking toward. Not a replacement, but a revelation. A life that finally reflects who you've become. One step at a time. One day at a time. You are getting there. Don't be afraid to fall in love again, not just with someone else, but with life, with mornings that feel peaceful, with coffee that tastes like hope, with books that feel like home, with music that reminds you of your strength. Love is not just romance. It's how you treat yourself when no one's watching. It's the way you honor your body, your time, your dreams. Let your life be full of love, even before another person enters the picture. Because the more love you create within you, the less desperate you'll be to find it outside of you, and the more powerful you'll feel when love does come along. Because this time you won't be seeking, you'll be choosing. There's something magnetic about a person who has rebuilt themselves, who has turned pain into wisdom, who has made peace with the past. That's who you're becoming. Not someone untouched by heartbreak, but someone transformed by it. Someone who didn't let it define them, but who let it shape them into someone wiser, braver, more whole. That kind of energy changes rooms. That kind of energy attracts what's meant for you. So keep going, keep rising, keep becoming. There's more waiting for you on the other side of this than you can imagine. But you have to trust the process. You have to trust you. You don't need them to come back. You don't need a better ending. You don't need an apology to set yourself free. All you need is the decision. The moment where you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm done holding on to what hurts me. That's when the chains start to break. That's when the weight begins to lift. That's when freedom starts to feel real. You've carried enough, you've cried enough, you've given enough. Now it's time to receive, not just from others, but from life, from yourself. Receive joy, receive peace, receive love that doesn't have to be earned. That's your new story, and it begins now. If you've made it this far, I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are not unlovable. You are in the middle of your becoming. This pain won't last forever, but what you learn from it will. You are allowed to outgrow people who once felt like home. You are allowed to move forward, even if they never understood you. You are allowed to rewrite your story, and you don't need anyone's permission to start over, just your own. And today, I hope you give it to yourself. You deserve a love that feels like peace, and that love begins with you. So take a deep breath. Close the chapter, not with resentment, but with gratitude. Not because it didn't hurt, but because you've finally outgrown it. Walk forward not with anger, but with clarity. You are ready. You are capable. You are rising. And no matter how heavy the past has been, your future is still wide open, brighter than ever, filled with people, moments, and memories that align with who you're becoming, not who you had to let go of. Let this be your turning point. Let this be your peace. Let this be your freedom.